Hi guys, this is Elite here, and well, I've been prompted to give out a lesson in gestures. And while I know how to do gestures, this is just my own way of doing gestures. They're not like standard practices or anything like that. These are just cardinal rules that I follow personally that make me do gestures better. And I'm just going to give you those rules. If you don't think that these rules are for you, feel free to just dismiss this video and look up another way to do gestures. But this is just my way of doing things. Sorry if it's just not to your taste. So without further ado, here we go. So the first thing you want to know is that contouring and gesturing is a separate thing. What I mean by contouring is what a lot of other people think gesture is. Contour is more or less the basic outline of a character or a thing, and it doesn't have any movement. Most people think of this as like, oh, if I just learn how to do this pose correctly, I can do gesture. No. What you're actually doing is contouring. And contouring is just the basic outline of a thing or a character, in this mindset, a character. This is just contouring, right? So you guys are probably asking them, what's gesturing? Gesturing is flow, movements, action, like things that you would see when you're things that people do when they are doing something epic or when they are doing something amazing. Is basically, it gives them a type of character just without having to do all the detail work. This is detail work for me. This is not. If I can go through my line and do a natural curve motion, then you have a gesture. So keep in mind that there are this difference. So yeah, basically there is this difference here. Now, the first rule that I have in mind for my gesturing is grounding. And what I mean by grounding is, how do these characters or things sit on the ground if they are not just floating in space? So if I had a character that's just falling or something, then I wouldn't have to worry about grounding, because they're falling, right? But it would look really silly if I do the same thing to a standing character. You know, it's just not gonna work out the way that I want it to. There's no grounding feature to this character. So, not this. I usually have a line to indicate where the ground is, or if I'm doing free flow, I don't have to worry about this line. And I build my character from that. It's much more easier to get a sense of your grounds, to get a sense of what your character is doing when they're standing on something, you know? This just, for me, makes it easy to figure out, okay, if they're standing on something and I have a character in mind and they're confident, this is what I'll be aiming for. You know, it's something to keep in mind is how well balanced your character is when standing on something. It really is, for me. So the second rule that I think of is gesture lines. Now, a gesture line is a line of movement. Say, for example, that I have these three balls, right? These three balls. Like I said before, the basic outline of this is a contour, but that's not what I'm going for. This is a gesture line. This right here, it just shows where the movement is happening. That's what a gesture line is there for. You don't always have to have it in a picture, and obviously if you're sketching, you're going to get rid of it anyways, but this is just something to keep in mind. And it's much more easier on your life if you do have a gesture line. So if I were to put this as a character, you would see that this is a type of character that's just stretching, you know? But the gesture line really does help. Like I said, it just gives you an idea of how this character is supposed to move. And if I didn't have a gesture line like this, then a pose like this would be difficult. But it's not, because I have a gesture line. You don't always have to have it, and if you get well trained enough, then you can just do these poses randomly. And you could see a gesture line whenever you do a picture. And it's really easy to find a gesture line. Trust me on that. Just look around and see, and put a line through it. See how it flows. See how it moves. You can do this kind of practice when you're watching a video of, I don't know, bottle flipping. No, that's a dead meme. You get the point. The final thing you have to keep up when it's a cardinal rule for me is it's not perfect. I always have a gripe against people who, oh, this line does not look perfect for this gesture, so I'm going to erase it. No, don't do that. Mistakes are supposed to happen in gestures because it's a gesture. Movement is not perfect. When you move on a rollerblade, you don't think about, oh, how perfect my pose looked like. You're just wondering, oh, how safe I'm supposed to be. You know, it's not meant to be like this. This looks stiff. So I would do something more like this, where it's just messy, but it works. It's the same exact pose, but it works. You see what I mean? It's not meant to be perfect. And if you make mistakes, don't worry about them. You're going to get rid of them one way or another. This gesturing is supposed to help you find movement in something. That's all gesturing is supposed to do for you. So when people get too hyped up on the perfection, they don't actually see how well they can do a pose through gesturing like this. So that's pretty much it, to be honest with you. Those are my 3 cardinal rules. So rule number 1 is grounding. Make sure your character, if it's not a free floating form, that it's standing on something or sitting on something. It makes your job of gesturing much easier. And number 2, gesture lines. Gesture lines are there to help you find the movement in the picture. Then number 3 is this can be extended from not just gesturing, but to every piece of art that you do. It's not meant to be perfect. It really is not. And if you stress out about trying to make something look perfect, you're just going to get stressed out. And when you're stressed out during art, you're just not going to be wanting to do it. And so that's it. And by the way, like I said in the beginning, if this just isn't for you, if my rules or my advice is just not for you, I have a great person that you can reference to, and their name is Proco. And Proco is honestly a great guy to just listen to their lessons to. But if you like what I do, then feel free to let me know and I'll give out more lessons. And well, yeah, just give me more things to talk about, I guess, or anything, any advice or something, and I'll do them for you. But that's the end of my video. Thanks for watching, guys.